Welcome to Leadership Live with Anton Gunn. It is 9 a.m. on Wednesday. So happy to have you all here. And today I want to continue on the theme of talking about political tension in the workplace. Let's face it, November 5th, 2024 is going to be a big and important election in the United States of America. We have two different candidates, two different visions, all kinds of things going on right now. It's going to be an important election. It's going to be an election where your employees are going to show up at work talking about things that matter in politics or that matter to them politically. They are going to do it. And I want you to understand that there is some research out that shows that more than 60% of people have felt mistreated at work because of their political beliefs. That they really feel like that I can't share my ideas, my ideology, the candidates I support, the positions I support at work, and therefore I'm going to face some backlash in the workplace. And as polarized as we get, as someone said last night, we're in a tightly divided nation. That you can guarantee that you might be in an organization where the vast majority of your employees might believe one way, and there are very few that might believe the other way. Or it could be vice versa. It could be that your employees are literally 50-50 on one side of the aisle or the other. And so it doesn't come as a surprise that as we approach 76 days before an election, that people will come to work and talk about the election. They will talk about the campaign. Like actually, as I'm recording this now, the Democratic convention is just getting started in Chicago, Illinois. It is going to be primetime television for the next 4 or 5 days. And because of it, you can suspect that people are going to show up on your team talking about who spoke last night and who said this. And did you hear what that person had to say? They were doing the same thing earlier this summer with the Republican National Convention. People were talking about Hulk Hogan and Lee Greenwood and anybody. I don't even remember all of the people that I heard about who spoke at the convention, but people were talking about it. So they're going to come in and talk about it. And there's going to be some tension in those conversations. And what you don't want is for people to come into work talking about the elections and then you not have a clear framework or roadmap for how you manage, mitigate, and reduce those political tensions in the workplace. Because what will happen if you don't have a plan to manage, mitigate, and reduce those tensions, you're going to end up with employees not liking each other, employees maybe even having some verbal altercations, and God forbid, some physical altercations. But many times you won't have those physical or verbal altercations, but instead you will have employees to be isolated, to be mistreated, they'll be ostracized, they'll be bullied passive aggressively in the workplace, and it is going to erode your workplace culture. It's going to tear it down, and it's going to tear it down quick and fast. And so I don't want you to have that problem because I want you to understand that your employees are important to you, your mission, and your organization. Your team is important to you, your mission, and your organization. And what you can't allow is division to take over your workplace. You can't allow it. So you have to be a leader who knows how to protect them, but most importantly, do the things that protect your employees from political tension in the workplace. If you don't, your culture is going to erode. It's going to affect your bottom line, your profitability. It's going to affect your culture. It's going to affect everything in the workplace. So today, I want to lay out for you 7 strategies that leaders can use to protect their people from political tension in the workplace. 7 strategies. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 strategies. Simple and easy frameworks that are going to help you to keep your culture intact and keep people focused on the right things. Now, here's the first one, and this is not going to be a surprise to anybody who's watched me deliver any content over the better part of the last 15 years. That if you want to protect your people from political tension in the workplace, you first and foremost have to lead by example. That's number one. You have to lead by example. So, what does leading by example mean? Leading by example is first having a healthy respect for people's political opinions, their beliefs, and how they show up in the workplace. Because we all come from a different place. It doesn't matter where you grew up, how you grew up. You might have a political belief that is closely held, right? And so if you have them, then you should suspect that your people have them as well. And your job as a leader is to respect people's opinions. Like I literally have a healthy respect for people who disagree vehemently on several political issues. I'm actually in a group chat with several people who we come from all professional backgrounds, different parts of the country. We come from different places. And I can tell you, we vigorously debate the issues, but we are not disrespectful to each other at all. We have a healthy respect for each other as individuals, and we have a greater respect for people's belief system because of where they come from. See, this level of respect starts when you know people's story. When you know who your people are, where they come from, what makes them tick, what their favorite books are, and their favorite journal articles, and their favorite movies. When you know who they are as a human being, it's easy to develop that level of respect for people because you know them. You trust their judgment, their acumen on everything else, but you might disagree politically about their position on an issue or even a candidate they support. So you should lead by example and do your best to respect people. The second way you lead by example is doing your best to stay neutral. Now, what do I mean stay neutral? I'm not telling you be in the middle of the road and wishy-washy at all. Like, when I was in politics, we had a phrase that says the only thing in the middle of the road are yellow lines and dead animals. And to some degree, that's true. But what I'm saying about staying neutral is do a deep dive analysis on the positives of both perspectives in politics. Like if you wanted to say, what are the deep dive positives by both candidates? Now, you might be hard pressed to find those things given how political rhetoric believes, but maybe don't even focus on the candidates. Maybe focus on the policies and what it might mean for your business or industry. And so have a healthy, neutral, balanced approach to understanding the candidates, the campaigns, and the issues. That's important for you as a leader, for your growth and maturity, is to have that neutral balance of understanding around things. The third thing you want to do to lead by example is to maintain some empathy. What I mean maintain empathy is that you want to be empathetic to what may happen on November 5th. Because on November 6th, you're going to have people who show up to work who are going to be excited, delighted, and happy. And you want to have some empathy for them for being happy. And you're going to have some people who are not going to be excited. They're going to be sad. They might even be downright angry. But a good leader that leads by example will have some empathy for those people on either side. So what am I telling you to do? I'm telling you, if you want to reduce political tension in your workplace, the first strategy is to be a leader who doesn't allow political tension to take over you. You do that by maintaining a healthy respect, having a balanced insight and opinion about both parties, both candidates, both sides of the issue, and maintaining empathy towards people who might have a result that is not in their favor at the end of election day. That's the first thing, is to lead by example. Now, the second thing you can do as a leader, if you're, running an organization, if you're the head of HR or you're an executive leader or any sort, you should have done the second item long time ago. And that is to establish clear guidelines and procedures around political speech in the workplace. And what do I mean, clear guidelines? Don't say everything is off limits. That's unrealistic. That's totally unrealistic. I'll give you an example of something that was unrealistic that employers had to make an accommodation for. So it used to be a time that you could smoke at work. Okay, you could smoke in the office, in the building, in the break room, in the cafeteria. You could smoke everywhere at work. But then it became bad form to smoke at work, and we all knew the dangers of smoking, and we heard all of the campaigns, and we know everything. So every employer literally said, "We have a clear policy that we are a smoke-free campus, that there is no smoking on this campus, in this building, in this organization." That was their clear policy and guideline. But they also had some caveats in those clear policies and guidelines, and which is they created places where employees who choose to smoke could smoke. Sometimes it was out in the parking lot. Sometimes there was a designated smoking area for people to smoke. So, what am I telling you about smoking as it relates to political tension and politics in the workplace? You should have some guidelines around what's allowed and what's not allowed to be talked about at work. But you need to create some clear guidelines of when it is okay. Because saying that, we have a no tolerance policy for it anywhere is just unrealistic in 2024. Which amount of information we get bombarded with every day, and the number of things that people have to see and read and hear about, and what's coming into our phones, whether it be notifications and messaging apps or social media apps, it's unrealistic to tell people not to talk about Barack Obama's speech at the convention. It's unrealistic to tell people not to talk about Michelle Obama's speech. It's unrealistic to tell people not to talk about Donald Trump's speech or his press conference last week. It's unrealistic to do that. So have some clear guidelines of what's okay for people to talk about and what's not okay for people to talk about. You want to put these things in place as soon as possible, long before you reach 70 plus days before the election. But having clear guidelines lets everybody know fairly, equitably, and transparently what's allowed, what's not allowed, when it is allowed, when it's not allowed, where is it allowed, and where it's not allowed, and what are the consequences if you violate those guidelines. That's the second strategy to protect your people from political tension. The third strategy is you want to facilitate open and respectful dialogue about these things. Like, as a leader, I would encourage you wholeheartedly to host an internal organizational forum to talk about the upcoming election and what this could mean for your business. Now, what do I mean? What does it mean for your business? You can probably look back at 2020, 2016, 2008, and 2000. You got 20 years of history that you can look back to see what the election meant for your company after the election, and not the next day after the election. I'm talking about the next year. So you should have some longitudinal framework of how your company thrives or struggles through election cycles. And be frankly honest, don't have to talk about the candidates at all or who it is. Just talk about what these cycles mean for your business. I was at a meeting recently in Chicago. And when I mean recently, I'm talking about early this summer, where a group of us were meeting and talking about how the election year always affects our businesses, how it impacts us as a speaker. See, if you're a keynote speaker, you're normally wanting to speak at a conference, okay? And so that conference may be a 2-day conference, and for a 2-day conference, they may have 4 slots for speakers. So you know that you are competing to be one of those 4 speakers for those slots. But every election year, one of those slots always goes to a politician. Second one of those slots always goes to a political prognosticator, somebody who can talk about whether the election is going to go this way or go that way. So if you're a speaker on leadership and there were 4 slots at this 2-day conference, and one slot went to the candidate that's running for governor in that state or running for president, because sometimes people have been preempted by a presidential candidate at a conference, or there is a political strategist who is on television, who now gets that speaking slot to talk about the election and what this industry should understand about the election, then that means 4 of those 2 slots are gone away. So you only get 2 opportunities to potentially speak at that conference, and there's more competition. So what does this all mean for you? Is that you as a business can talk about how this could impact your business. Because I'm telling you right now, as a person who is looking for one of those 4 slots, to know that 2 of them are gone away and I only got 2 left, that's 100% impacting my business. Because now I may not get the opportunity. So there's less opportunities, there's less revenue into my company, less opportunity for me to be successful as a keynote speaker. So you want to make sure that you have open dialogue and respectful dialogue and talk about how the election might impact your business, your company, your industry. There are things that you can do, but you want to have open dialogue about it and allow people to make question and answer and really debate what this might mean. An informed workforce is a strong workforce. This is what you can do as a civic leader, is to make sure that your employees are fully informed with the facts, particularly from your industry perspective and your business perspective. That would be what I would give you as a wise counsel. Now, some people might tell you the opposite. Don't let them talk about it at all. I don't think there's any success in allowing people to be ignorant about the things that are going to impact your business and their daily lives. So I would focus some time and attention on that. That's the third thing to do, is facilitate some open and respectful dialogue about politics in the election and even acknowledging the tension that's going on. Now, the fourth strategy is an important one that I specifically can help you with. And that is providing some training and support to your leaders and managers about how to navigate these rules of the road. What do I mean training? Is that I told you at the beginning, the first thing you need to do is to lead by example. And every person in your organization that supervises people should also lead by example. But you are not necessarily providing the training and the level of support necessary to train your managers and supervisors on how to deal with these issues. I mean, you might train them how to manage the time management system. You might train them on your personnel policies. You might train them on how to supervise people who are doing a specific job. But are you providing enough training and support for them to be better leaders to navigate difficult issues, crucial conversations, complex conversations? You got to train them on how to be civil in the workplace. Teach them how to be a civil leader. You want to invest in your people that way, and I can help you. So you want to make sure that you provide enough training and support for your leaders so that they stay civil and they teach people how to be civil in the workplace. That is number 4. Now, number 5 on this list is what you should always be doing, regardless if it's an election year, if it's anything going on, any kind of uncertainty going on. Your job number 5, your strategy number 5, should I say, is to refocus people on the vision. Refocus people on the vision for your company. Refocus people on your goals. Refocus people on your mission. Everybody on your team is a part of making that vision a reality. And if you're a strong leader running an effective organization, then people can see the vision. They can see themselves as a part of that vision. And then they understand that the company has a mission to execute on. So if you keep people focused or refocus them, not on the politics, not on the political tensions, not on the stuff that's going on, but if you have an open, safe dialogue and you talk a little bit about politics and then you sum it all up by saying, hey, let me tell you what this means. What this means is we have a purpose and a vision as an organization. Regardless of what goes on in the election, our jobs are to help people to build diverse, high-performing teams and a world-class workplace culture that you could identify because the leaders are amazing. And the employees are people who care about each other. We respect each other. We're valued by each other, and we're empowered to execute on the mission, which is to make a difference in the lives of people in their organizations and their communities. See, that's the vision for my company. And that's what I will always keep people refocused on, regardless of what's going on. You got to keep people focused on the vision. That is strategy number 5. Now, strategy number 6, and I've talked about this in the previous 2 weeks, is that you want to have some safe spaces for people to talk about the elections. Your employee resource groups might be safe spaces, because if you have LGBTQ plus employees, one of these administrations coming up will be better for your employees than the other. If you have employees who are focused on financial investments and stock market, maybe one of them might be better than the other. If you have people who are worried about what's going on in the Middle East, or worried about what's going on in Ukraine, or worried about America getting pulled into a war, you may have employees who are either veterans or married to personnel in the military. They need a safe space to talk about what this could mean, what could happen in the world that would impact their lives. So you want to be able to create these safe spaces for people to have some conversation around what this all might mean. That's strategy number 6. Now, strategy number 7 is the one that I think everybody could do a better job of. And that is teaching your teams and your organization how to be resilient and have a strong personal well-being regardless of what happens. See, we need more resilience. We need people who not only have the mindset, but they have the tools in front of them to be resilient. That you want to focus on your employees' well-being. So providing mental health services, EAP services, breathing classes, yoga classes, all kinds of things to help people to reduce the tension and get it out of their shoulders, get it out of their heads, to get the migraines out of the way. Like, we all personally can do a better job of that, but we also can do a better job of creating a work environment that helps people to be resilient, that improves their well-being, that we want to promote resilience and well-being in our workforce. So encouraging people to exercise or to walk or, dance classes. I remember I worked in an organization that every day at lunch from 12 to 1, there was like a line dance thing in the hallway that they played music and everybody got their, groove on, cha-cha slide, whatever dance they were doing at the time. I think it was a wobble, not the cha-cha slide, but the wobble. They would do that at work over lunch break, and it was a great tension breaker. It helped people to be resilient. So I'm telling you right now, if you want to be a leader that protects your people from the upcoming political tension that we're going to see more and more and more of over the next 70 plus days, your first strategy is to lead by example. Your second strategy is to establish clear guidelines of what's allowed and what's not allowed. Your third strategy is to facilitate open and respectful dialogue about the election and about these issues. Your fourth strategy is to provide more training and support. You got to train your leaders how to be leaders. You got to support them on how to be supportive to other people. And number 5, you want to refocus everybody's attention on the vision of your company, the mission of your company, the values of your company, the purpose of your company. And number 6, you want to create safe spaces for people to dialogue about these issues. And finally, number 7, you want to promote resilience and well-being in your workforce. If you do that as a leader, you will protect your employees from the political tensions that are continuing to rise as we get closer and closer to the election. So I want to thank you for joining me for Leadership Live this week. We will see you next week on Leadership Live with Anton Gunn. Take care.